So I wanted to make this video for two reasons. One is we need you to create a more open position on the squat as well as the deadlift. And two, which is combined with the first point, is we need you to get better at hinging with the hips. So, and the reason why this intuitively doesn't happen with you is because you're quite a quad dominant lifter, and I mean, you can just look at your legs and your quads are huge. It's not a surprise. On the squat, it makes sense that a heeled shoe is better for you, more emphasis on the quads. But with that said, when we squat, what I would still want to see you doing, and at the start of this cycle, it might be easier for you to segment it into these two steps, but eventually maybe you can break simultaneously. But to start, you can have your same foot position, like we mentioned, maybe open it up just a little bit, not a lot. And I want you to break at the hips, feel tension in the hamstrings and the glutes, and from there drop straight down. And I want you to do this because right now what's happening is you're squatting straight into your knees, and you'll see you have your bar path is a bit diagonal. You squat into the knees. What happens is your quads cannot take all of that load. So you shift a bit backwards and then you come up. And this tends to work well with rep work, with lighter percentages, with anything that's around under 90%. That's why you have a tendency to be able to do, like, I don't know, I've seen you do, 88% for a set of 5 or something very heavy for multiple reps. It's because at a heavy weight, when you get shifted back like this, you're unable, because it's such a disadvantaged position, you're unable to just come up like that. So, a little brief summary of that is, open up the stance a bit, and for now, we can separate it into two phases of breaking the hips, and you're feeling that tension in the hamstrings with the glutes, and from there, dropping straight down. And hopefully what they'll get you to do is, and it may be a bit weaker to start, but hopefully this will lead to a straight bar path, and you'll be loading your hamstrings, glutes, and quads all relatively evenly. And it's fine if you're still using a heel shoe, it'll still put a bit more emphasis on the quads, but in general, it'll get your hamstrings and glutes incorporated, and it should fix the shift out of the hole. So that's our first lift. The second lift is the deadlift. And now the same thing with the deadlift, you tend to have a very feet forward position. You're like this, and then when you pull, and I'm exaggerating so you can see, when you pull, the back is rounded at both the top and the bottom, your pelvis is tucked, and you're driving straight in and coming up like that. And as you can imagine, that's a lot of tension in the quads, not much in the hamstrings and the glutes. So it's the same thing. For you, and I have to do this with myself, is I have to cue an anterior pelvic tilt. I have to cue doing this. So when I pull, personally, I focus on keeping the ribs down because I have hyperextension in my thoracic. So I've got to focus on keeping this down. But once I grab the bar, I've got to cue tilting the pelvis, and then I come in. So for you, you might have to cue both extension in the upper back as well as the lower back and pelvis, as well as we may need you to do the same thing as what you're doing on the squat, which is we may need you to just move the feet out or just turn them out just a little bit so that we can have you hinge a bit better into the hamstrings and the glutes. So again, just like we're going to have you do a two-step process on the squat, we can have you break down the deadlift into multiple steps. So you can set your feet, and we'll have you turn them out just a little bit, not a lot, maybe 10 degrees or so. And you're going to cue instead being extended, you're going to hinge back, feel tension in the hamstrings and the glutes, and then you're going to go straight down, get your air, pull, right? So for you, you might have to focus a lot on cueing this. It may be slower off the floor. The same for the squat. It may be slower out of the hole because you're not going to be driving straight into your two knees and rebounding the squat. And for this, you're going to be loading your hamstrings and your glutes a bit more as well. But we've got to get rid of the notion of speed. You can look at electrician, you can look at Bryce Krawczyk, you can look at Cassioli, you can look at Ramsey, you can look at Tom Keane, you can look at a lot of top level lifters, and I've asked them about this, and no one's thinking about speed. They're thinking about being in a good position throughout the movement. Thinking about speed tends to put you in a poor position at top end weights. It'll make lighter percentages feel awesome because they're so light that even if you get in a disadvantaged position, you can just dummy it around. But once we get to over 85, 90%, that's when those positions are going to crumble. So, sum it up. What we need you to do is, instead of loading the quads exclusively, we need you to get hip hinging, loading the hamstrings and the glutes. In the squat, that means turning the feet out just slightly and maybe a slightly wider stance. The 2 steps of hinging back and dropping straight down. In the deadlift, that means the same thing. Turning the feet out slightly, and then cueing that interior pelvic tilt and extension, and then grabbing the bar and going. And then lastly, forgetting about the notion of speed. And I'll just tack this on onto the bench. You can look at Noriega's older videos from, I don't know, I'd say around 2017, maybe even 2018. And he used to have an extremely sinking bench press and then he'd throw it up. And now if you watch any of his videos, you'll see it's an extremely soft touch. I think that's also something we should look at. If we can get you to be doing a soft touch bench, I think it'll lead to not losing position off the chest. As you saw with, I think I gave you a double at 140 or 142 or something like that. And you saw after that first rep, you were starting further up, meaning you lost shoulder position either when pressing or when resting on when pausing on the chest. So I think a soft touch bench press will also go a long way, just because it'll be easier to keep tension on the chest, which will lead to a better press. And again, it'll probably be a lot slower at 135, 225, 275, even 315 might feel slower, but I've got a strong feeling that it'll be a more consistent position that'll lead to a higher top end, even if the rep stuff is slower. So, a grand summary. On the squat, hinging back with a slightly more open foot position, dropping straight down. On the deadlift, slightly more open, cueing a lot of extension in the upper and lower back, and really feeling tension in the hamstrings and glutes. So hinging back, coming down with extension, especially in the pelvis. On the bench, just doing a soft touch. So I'll likely program you a lot of t-shirt presses or Spoto presses or stuff like that. So I think that goes over what I want you to focus on for this cycle. It's going to be fairly boring because I want you to ingrain these new motor patterns, and I think it'll lead to a higher top end once we get to those weights. Training on competition equipment will be super important, especially on the deadlift, as you've seen. I think that's it. Yeah.